What is up, guys? My name is AJ,
And this is Ferg.
and welcome to episode one of our gaming podcast, Hotfixes and Hot Takes. Now, this podcast will set out to basically be a weekly discussion where we get together and talk about all the latest gaming updates, new games that are coming out, some gaming discussions for the industry as a whole, stuff like that. Now, if any of you have been watching my channel, I mentioned this project a couple weeks ago where, I wanted to branch away from just talking about Call of Duty in little, 20-minute videos every single week and instead expand outward and talk about everything going on in gaming as a whole, gaming culture, different games that are coming out, give you guys some reviews, some in-depth, news and everything about current games that are out with new updates, stuff like that, weekly content. So this will be evolving as we go on, obviously. And just to start off, give you a little bit of introduction if you guys have never heard of us. My name is AJ or Crunchy Frog, as you know, and I've been doing YouTube now for about 3 or 4 years, covering mostly Call of Duty, but I've also done little forays into other gaming culture as well. And hopefully going to be bringing a little bit of the more long form videos that I've made on my channel in the past to this podcast. Ferg, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Ferg or Ryan. Just your average gamer. Been playing since we grew up together, and excited to just talk some games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that we want out of this podcast, if anyone's listening, you're probably wondering, just another podcast, more guys talking into mics for an hour. What are they going to be bringing to the table? What am I in store for? And the biggest thing is, like I mentioned there in the intro, this will be a gaming discussion and news podcast. So every week will be something different. It's been something where Ferg and I, every single week, when we get on to play games together, get on Discord for the night, stuff like that, we bring up current events. Did you see this studio laid off 1,000 people? Did you see this new game got a new trailer? And we would just kind of, talk back and forth, shoot the breeze and everything like that. And I think it's going to be really cool to get together and do this in a podcast format, and kind of interact with the community and get you guys' takes on it as well. So once again, this podcast will cover all gaming news. So if a big story breaks throughout the week, between our episodes, we'll get it together, we'll cover it, we'll break it down for you guys as well as give our opinions on it. So usually that'll entail a discussion about it. We'll go back and forth, give our thoughts. How we think this will affect the industry, how this will affect this game, stuff like that. And we'll also be doing reviews. So if a game comes out, like I know later on in the episode, right, we're going to be breaking down some of the games both of us are playing, and give our thoughts on it. They won't be full in-depth reviews like you guys have seen on my channel in the past, but definitely, kind of a before you buy for you guys, so that you can enjoy that. We'll also be breaking down weekly content that's coming out. So both of us play a decent amount of live service games, or at least games with some live service elements. So we'll give you all the latest info on that. And of course, if there's any, games that our audience seems to really want us to cover, we can also start covering those as well. Kind of in terms of cadence, how often are you guys going to be getting a new episode of this? Honestly, it really depends on the news cycle. We're aiming for once a week or once every other week, just depending on our schedules, depending on what's coming out. Is there a whole lot of news to talk about like we have in this episode? Or is it just a really slow week and all we would have talked about was a gun was added to Call of Duty or something? So as of right now, you guys can find us here on my YouTube channel. If the podcast expands to a significant degree, we might move it to a separate channel, kind of let it breathe its own air. You can also find it on Spotify. We're going to work on getting it up on Spotify, and we'll be maybe even posting clips elsewhere as well, and stuff like that. So just some housekeeping stuff before we get into some of our discussions and breakdowns and everything like that. Keep in mind, this episode will be a little bit longer than normal. Ferg and I kind of got together a couple weeks ago and hatched this idea, and we've been throwing pretty much every big news story that's been coming out into into our script for the last 2 weeks or so. So it's going to be a little jam packed. We're going to try to cover it in a succinct and efficient way. But yeah, typically we're shooting for like 45 minutes to an hour, you think?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a good time that we're gonna shoot for.
Yeah, so about once a week, once every other week, somewhere in and around there. I estimate two, three, maybe four times a month. You'll be getting new episodes, and yeah, be about an hour long. Obviously, if something really big happens or we have a really big review or two to do, you might be looking at closer to an hour, 15 hour, and 30, but those will be few and far between. So yeah, the very first segment that we want to go through is our reset roundup, and that covers all of the live service stuff that's going on, and what's kind of going on in the games that we personally play. So first up, I don't know, Ferg, have you played the new season 2 Reloaded at all for Black Ops?
I have not touched COD in a while. Just has not been checking the boxes. Feels like a lot of the same. New zombies map dropped and haven't touched it yet.
Yeah, that's the for those of you that don't know, I believe it was it last week, right? Last Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
last
season
Tuesday,
2.
Thursday, I believe.
Okay, yeah, last Thursday. Okay, that works. So yeah, last week COD had season 2 Reloaded, which, if you don't know, Call of Duty does about 5 or 6 content seasons a year, and then the halfway point between the seasons, they do a mini update. So they almost break it down into 10 or 12 sections throughout the year, and about every month. And yeah, last week they released season 2 Reloaded, and like Ferg alluded to there, they did release a brand new zombie map. Ferg, if you want to break down kind of everything that you've heard so far about that map, since neither of us have played it yet.
Yeah. So Paradox Junction, remake of Nuketown once again. Um, couple time mechanics, so two versions of the map. But yeah, like I said, it's COD is feeling kind of bland at this point, so I have not checked it out. I don't know if I will check it out before the next zombies map drops too. It's just not something that's in the rotation right now.
Yeah, and I feel kind of the exact same way. Usually, no matter what is in these seasons, as you guys know on this channel, I try to play everything. I try to usually break it down, and this map in particular didn't really reel me in. And the other massive, you know, update to the game that we'll also talk about today is the Blackout 2.0, which is like the resurgence. Well, that's a bad word to use in COD Battle Royale, but kind of the new iteration of Blackout, which was 2018's version of Battle Royale before Warzone came out. Back there in Black Ops 4 was Blackout, and they've re-released it, which neither of us have been very interested. I know for me, I don't know about you, I didn't really like Blackout. I enjoyed Warzone when I first started playing it. I didn't enjoy Blackout at all.
Yeah, see, I loved Blackout when it dropped. I feel like the whole battle royale was still a little bit too new though at the time. So I know we didn't play together. A lot of the friends that we play with, they weren't interested, so it was a lot of solo play, and that only lasted a week or so. I was excited that they were announcing Blackout 2.0. Um, but the market's just so saturated right now. There's just so much going on, so many games out that it's one hard to keep up with these weekly updates, these weekly resets, and two, I think COD is. I'm going to allude to it again. It's just so stale at this point. It's they're reusing assets. They're redropping very old things, old maps, old weapons. It's just it's kind of hit that point for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they really tried to score with that nostalgia. They're running out of things, like you said, to score with nostalgia, just because they do it constantly every single month. But I think they really tried to hit that nostalgia bug with Blackout. And I think while there are people like yourself, I know Near Cinema, pretty prominent YouTuber, he absolutely loves Blackout. I think there was a reason that it didn't take off as much as Warzone. I think that it's more niche, you know what I mean? Like than the broader appeal. Like when they brought back Verdansk, everyone lost their minds. It was a huge update. It didn't last too long. People kind of gave up after a couple weeks, anyways. But it had a lot more. I feel like gravitas behind it, and this felt very much so just like, hey, remember that thing? We're gonna bring it back. And
Yeah.
those that enjoy it, like yourself or others, it's really cool. But I think the overall broad appeal, it's just getting stale. Like you said, people were tired of, yes, I already played that mode. I already played that map. I already used that gun. I already got that gun gold in a previous game. So, do you plan on giving Blackout 2.0 a try at all? Or
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, back to your point, like we're not even seeing big streamers stream it for more than a day or so. I think I saw Tim the Tatman last week, um, playing a few matches of it, but I haven't seen anybody big still playing it at this point. I think it's probably just going to be a similar limited time event, and they're going to go back to regular Warzone and right back to the norm.
Yeah, yeah. I might, like we always do, might give it a whirl with you on a Friday or Saturday night where we're just chilling. But I don't see
Yeah,
myself playing it in any real capacity past that. But
I don't think so. Unfortunate, but
yeah. So maybe we'll talk a little more about the update when we get back down to our news section. But that's the major things coming to COD, right? We have Season 2 Reloaded, new zombie map that takes place in Nuketown, or two versions of Nuketown, and Blackout 2.0. And then obviously there's probably some guns and limited time modes and a map or two as well. So Ferg, next up on our list is Marathon. Now that is
marathon.
that is your bread and butter right now. So why don't you tell us
Yeah,
kind of any new updates, any new things coming to Marathon?
yeah. There's been a couple patches since launch. They just dropped one yesterday as well, on the 17th. There, some balancing patches. Been doing a great job. I think they've had a couple knee jerk reactions to the community so far since launch. Um, but they've kind of gone back on what they adjusted in the first patch, within the second patch, and have made some pretty good quality of life updates, um, in this update. So don't want to get too far into Marathon right now. I have a good bit to say about it, but I will just leave it at the weekly patches hit yesterday, and there's been a lot of really good changes on it.
Awesome. Have they talked at all about like seasonal updates or roadmap or anything like that?
Yeah, they just launched, game plans for ranked. It's pretty in depth. I haven't had the time to sift through it, to watch some of the videos, read some of the guides. It seems like it's going to be pretty in depth for the big Destiny 2 players. Like into Trials of Osiris, which I know was a huge, multiplayer, um, mode for Destiny 2. So I think the fans are pretty excited for ranked, coming in just a few days. And their fourth map is going to be dropping. Their end game map is going to be dropping as well. So, I think there's a lot of excitement around Marathon still. But again, I want to hold that a little bit later into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next up, we have a game that both of us play. And if you've again watched my channel the last couple of years or followed me on Twitch back when I streamed a lot, you'll know that yep, we played co-op of it constantly, especially once we
Yeah,
get our teams ready, and that is MLB The Show 26. So right now, the game just dropped, as a matter of fact, and again, we'll go over a little more on our thoughts on the game later. But the game just dropped in early access on last Friday.
Friday.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, so it dropped last Friday. Um, both of us got the early access, so we've been playing, but I think the game officially launched yesterday, or
Yep.
was it today or yesterday?
Yesterday. Yeah,
Okay.
17th.
Yeah, so the game's just come out, so there's not any huge updates. However, there is a St. Patty's Day program, like a St. Patty's Day little event that they threw since the game came out on St. Patrick's Day. So,
Yeah.
Ferg, do you want to go over kind of what to expect with that? What new things are they adding that weren't there on the early access launch on Friday?
Yeah, yeah. So St. Patty's Day program, little set of St. Patty's Day cards. The big hitter right now is the Michael Trout chase card. It's one of the higher diamonds in the game, right now, and it's a pretty quick and easy program. Um, yeah, with that Trout card.
Awesome. Yeah, so obviously, guys, definitely keep your eyes on that. That is a game that I think we'll be covering a lot in the weekly reset roundup that we do here, just because games like that, especially games with a team building mode like FIFA has, like Madden has, Madden Ultimate Team, stuff like that. They put out a lot of updates. They'll add new modes to play, new cards to get constantly, new programs to work through. So if you guys are a fan of MLB The Show, make sure to tune in every week, and we'll give you all the new updates as the post launch content starts rolling out for that.
Yeah.
Next up, and this is my baby now.
Resident Pokemon.
Yeah. So as you guys know, despite this whole channel being about a shooter game, like a really mature violent war game. I actually, more so than COD, really enjoy games like Minecraft, Animal Crossing, those fun life sim or sandbox games like that. And so I've been playing the hell out of Pokopia, and we'll go into that a little bit more in our review section after the news. But yeah, there's actually already an event. So Pokopia launched on the 5th of March there, and they already have a new event. So it sounds like they'll be doing little events like these wherein they add a couple new items to the game, along with a couple Pokemon. If you guys don't know what the game is, or how it works, right? You can create like little habitats that Pokemon eventually spawn in. You know, if you put a couple chairs next to a tree or something, for example, a Pokemon might pop out, a certain Pokemon that's tied to that type of habitat. So they've done, I don't know the exact name of the event. I don't even think they gave it an official name or anything, but they have added the Hoppip line. So Hoppip, Skiploom, and Jumpluff are added to the game. So those Pokemon were not in the base game, but they added a whole bunch of like spring and Easter themed items that you can purchase with in-game currency, if we'll call it, and you can get those Pokemon to join your island. So essentially, if you guys are familiar with the game, you'll just have to go to Dream Island, and which is like the daily reset island that you could farm for resources and hunt for legendary Pokemon. And there is a new resource there that you can pick up, take back to the Withering Wastes Pokemon Center, where Hoppip will be a like a vendor there for you, and you can buy those new those new items, and yeah, get 3 new Pokemon.
I couldn't begin to describe what these Pokemon look like. I am so far out of Pokemon. I just bought Fire Red a couple weeks ago on the Switch when it came out, and I've been texting AJ on my progress. I'm struggling, man. So Pokemon resident over there is AJ for sure.
Well, I tell you what, these these are probably some of my least favorite Pokemon. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I will say that it's cool that they are already adding some content to the game. Even if it's just 3 Pokemon. The cool thing though, and this has been kind of used in the marketing for this game leading up to it, but everyone truly has a different favorite Pokemon. So no matter who it is, there's probably somebody out there who loves Jumpluff more than any other Pokemon in the world. And me, I would not care if it just went away. But yeah, so if you guys play Pokopia, keep your eyes out for that. Make sure you're collecting all those cotton spores on the Dream Island, because I do think after the 25th, so this was live from March 10th through the 25th, I think after the 25th, the items go away, and therefore your ability to coax those Pokemon to join your island also go away. So, other than that, I think that about wraps it up for any in-game updates. Is there anything else you can think of, Ferg?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's a little bit surprising on my end that a game like Pokopia is having weekly events already. So that's interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they juggle a live service model if they're going to go that route and try to here's 2 Pokemon here, here's an evolution line there, with DLC plans. I'm assuming they're going to have DLC. This thing's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
sequel plans. Pokemon is a franchise with 1,028 characters now that they can play around with. I think the base game has a little under 300. I think it's like 295 or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they sprinkle that in, or if they're okay with reusing content later on down the road, stuff like that. So yeah, super cool to see already. We'll get into these games a little more in depth later on, but that is all the new content coming to them this week. So that wraps up our weekly reset, and that moves us on to kind of the big stories for the week. So in all of these podcasts, this is going to be the meat and potatoes of what we do here. We're going to break down every big news story that breaks throughout the week. Both of us are chronically on Twitter, for better or worse, and occasionally on Reddit and YouTube and stuff like that. And so we kind of see everything as it happens, as well as the community reactions to it. So this is going to be, again, the bulk of what we do here every week, where we kind of bring up a big story that happens and then give our thoughts on it. When we set out to make this, we very much so wanted this to be a dialogue, just two buddies chatting about the big news items. What do you think of these layoffs? What do you think of this DLC being announced, this trailer, blah, 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 as opposed to it strictly being like an 11 o'clock news.
Yeah, we are no industry insiders by no means. We work our 9 to 5s, we come back and we play. So it's definitely just two average guys shooting stick.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, we will get right into it. And we touched on a little bit of this earlier, but we'll go in a little bit more in depth. And that is that the first item on our list is that Black Ops 7 did get a Season 2 Reloaded update. So like we talked about before, right, there's a new Nuketown, which, Ferg, I'm going to be honest with you. Again, we kind of touched on it in the weekly reset, but I am nonplussed by the idea of having just a Nuketown survival with a clean version of Nuketown that you can touch a portal and be transported to. I don't know about you.
No, not at all. Not at all. It feels like we get Nuketown every year. It is that staple map, but for them to bleed it into zombies again, we've seen it too much. I'm surprised there was any excitement around it. I mean, I did tune into the day one Easter egg streams like I always do. I followed the zombie storyline pretty closely. It was cool to watch the Easter egg like always, but seeing Nuketown once again, you kind of roll your eyes, and for how much money that company makes, for how many people they have working on that game, it's crazy to me that they're reusing so much still, especially with all the competition right now. It's kind of wild to me.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the tweets that I've seen and some of the kind of industry insider information that's come out is that because of the lack of performance from Black Ops 7, which, if you guys don't know, Black Ops 7 performed, I think, worse than any Call of Duty game since World at War, back when the franchise was really getting under its legs. And so I think it performed so poorly that they already slashed the zombies budget. And they've done it several years in the past.
Same story.
Yeah.
Same story.
And you would think, if a game came out and it wasn't doing well and it was hurting and needing players, you'd think they would invest and, say, hey, the one thing that people do enjoy right now is zombies, which has been universally praised. I love the first two maps. We both played the hell out of them together. Came within this much of beating the first Easter egg. And so, it's one of those things like that was the one thing you had going for you. I don't understand why you don't put a little more money into it, make it happen, and, give us good maps. This really feels like they just slashed the budget. They said, listen, guys, you didn't sell enough. You're done. And so the Zombies team, can maybe only make 2 or 3 big maps this year, and the rest are just going to be these little filler, Liberty Falls type maps where you just turn your brain off, grind camos, and, just get excited about Nuketown for the, like you said, 87th time. I don't plan on, I'm going to play it, but I don't plan on like really going hard at this or trying to beat the Easter egg. I don't know about you, unless we get really bored.
It's gonna be a map I play when I'm bored with everything else. Not something I'm rushing to right now.
Yeah. So that came out, and then obviously we also touched on Blackout remastered, if you want to call it that, or Blackout 2.0 is in the game, and I think it was a miss not including the original map, because I think it takes place on Avalon, which is like the new in-universe, like big, Warzone map or whatever. I think it was a big miss not having, if you're going to go full nostalgia bait, right, and you're going to try to do Blackout, do you not think it would make sense to bring back the map that everybody loved?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to when they reintroduced Verdansk, right? The mode wasn't fundamentally different, on top of that, but we still hopped back on. We had some buddies who hadn't played Warzone or Call of Duty in a year or two plus that re-downloaded it because Verdansk was back. It didn't last very long, but I think the fact that you brought back the original Warzone map, the original Battle Royale map associated with Warzone, comparing that to Blackout, the fact that they didn't bring that back is, I think, a pretty big miss. And you don't catch that nostalgia bait that you could have.
Yeah, especially it kind of goes into like layers, right, of nostalgia, because not only was the old map, people liked it, whatever, but it was filled with POIs that were nostalgia baiting maps, right, from like World of War.
Yeah.
There was like Asylum. That's what I love about the Call of Duty rendition of Battle Royale, is the fact that I can go on a map that fundamentally is, a peninsula in, wherever they say it takes place, California, whatever. But in it, I can play maps that I played in 2008 and 2010 and again in 2013, like all these maps.
Yep.
That's what makes it fun, because I know the maps, so gunfights are infinitely more fun, because, muscle memory and everything like that. But yeah, so I think they really shot themselves in the foot by introducing the mode itself, which to me isn't fundamentally different enough from normal Warzone to warrant.
I, I think I disagree with that a little bit. I think the whole looting system is
Yeah, that's fair.
kind of revamped. Inventory system is a little bit different, so there is a little bit of a different mindset going into it, knowing that you're not going to get your loadout within the first 5 minutes of the match and be running with the same loadout that you ran the last 100 matches. Attachments are kind of a bigger deal. Weapon rarity is a bigger deal, so I think it does change the gameplay up a little bit, but um, I just don't think they did enough. And again, the current market, I just think there's too much out there that other people want to be playing right now that it just couldn't grab their attention, couldn't grab our attention, and we've been playing COD all of our lives, so
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, in addition to that, obviously there were some guns released and stuff like that. Maybe in future videos where we don't have so many absolute bombshells of news to cover, we would go into that and
yeah,
talk about
it's a
each
big
new
one.
map and stuff like that. But kind of the last story with Call of Duty that I thought was pretty big was the fact that a couple leakers, including prominent leaker Ghost of Hope, were contacted by Activision, basically told, you know, get out of town. Stop doing what you're doing. And I don't think they have a legal precedent to do anything, so they didn't threaten him legally, I don't think. Although I wouldn't want to test Activision, even if they didn't hit
Yeah,
me with a legal news, I'm not gonna
yeah,
test them. But yeah, they basically shut him down, and he admitted on Twitter that he's done. He's gonna cover news, much like Berg and I are going to be doing in this podcast, or whatever. But he's not going to be leaking. And I don't know about you, but I think this is horrible for the game's hype cycle. Right? If I'm a dev, obviously I don't want super big secrets coming out before I can break them. But 90% of the leaks that come out, in my mind, just push the game back into the public consciousness. They're not, there are those 10% that are probably gut wrenching for the devs to see, like, oh, what the hell? We were going to surprise you guys with this. But I think the other 90% are, you and I've talked about it. Like, I think they're almost orchestrated to be like, oh, let's build hype for the game by,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
I think cutting that news source off, because he was one of the most credible ones as well. He was, very rarely
yeah,
was he wrong or proven wrong. But yeah, they came out and they kind of acknowledged that. They were kind of like, oh, we get that it builds hype and we aren't shutting down all leaks, but we just want to. I don't know. I think it's dumb to kind of shoot yourself in the foot. I get it though. Like, I get why they have to do it. I'm not necessarily blaming them for what they did, but I just think that the pros outweigh the cons, essentially.
yeah. I see it as two sides. I see it as, I feel like the leakers the past couple of years have, in their initial reporting, for the most part, they're reporting, hey, the next game's going to be another Black Ops, for Black Ops 7, for example. I think maybe in Activision's eyes, they are seeing that set up an immediate negative reaction to the upcoming game, whether it's going to be the next Black Ops, and that leak is true. I think the second half of it is, I think Black Ops Cold War, the whole marketing push was everything is a lie. Don't believe what you read. Is this Call of Duty really trying to double down into the community and saying, hey, we're striking down these leakers in a larger marketing campaign, and Ghost of Hope and these other leakers that have claimed that they're done leaking, they're going to come back and say they were in on it, or they're going to start posting some really cryptic things to feed into potentially Call of Duty's next game. I think there may be a side of that. I don't think it's very plausible, um, but I do think there could be a little side.
Yeah, I think overall, what you touched on is huge for them in recent years. I think this is why it's only come to a head now, is that before somebody like Ghost of Hope would be like, oh, the next game is Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and it's going to take place in the future or in the near future, and there's going to be branching storylines, for example. And everyone was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
It was a
now,
much bigger deal because the series was still developing.
yeah,
Things were new. Things were actually exciting at that point.
yeah, and it got people hyped. But now, with Call of Duty's recent track record of not really making the smartest decisions, I think that's one of those things of like you said, if it, Ghost of Hope has already come out and been like, oh yeah, by the way, and this I think is the leak that really set this off, because it was like less than a week later that they hit him with this. But he basically came out and he was like, yeah, just so you guys know, Modern Warfare 4 is coming out this year. And it's pretty much exactly like the Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 version that you guys all hated. So have fun with that. And like
Yeah.
you said, it kicked off this tidal wave of like, now everyone's like, well, screw this. I'm not buying this game. There's no way. Um, and yeah, I think in the past when COD was making good decisions, like I was saying, this is good PR. But now that they're making dumb decisions, it proves your point of this just gets the negative PR started much
Yeah.
earlier than if they dropped a trailer and everyone was like, oh, God, Modern Warfare 4? So, um, yeah, I mean, he's, like you said, whether or not he's actually done or if, he'll slide in the middle of May and be like, guess what? It
Yeah.
remains to be
Yeah.
seen.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think it probably is some damage control. It would be cool to see some bigger marketing play, um, but I don't think that's very likely.
Yeah. So as of right now, that is the consensus for the next Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 4. I think Call of Duty has already confirmed that Infinity Ward is making the next one, so that part isn't a big secret or anything like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, we'll cover it here. Whenever we do get official word or any more credible leaks, if anyone else is willing to stick their neck out and leak anything. But yeah, as it stands right now, looks like Modern Warfare 4 as of right now might be kind of like Modern Warfare 2022, but we'll just have to wait and see. So,
Yikes.
yeah,
Yikes.
I love the idea of Modern Warfare 2022. I did not enjoy playing it, although I would love to play one
Yep.
without skill-based matchmaking and see if I hate it any
Yep.
less. But, but yeah, that about wraps it up for Call of Duty news, and we're going to move on to, and this was, I'm going to be honest with you, this was the news story that made me text Ferg and say, we're finally going to do it. We're going to make a
Yep.
podcast, because the absolute nightmare that was Highguard. So if you guys don't really know or have been living under a rock in a gaming sense the last month and a half, 2 months, way back at the games, what was it, the Game Awards in December,
Yeah.
if anyone doesn't know, the Game Awards is basically the Oscars for gaming. Jeff Keighley puts on a show every year, and it has gotten massive. As a matter of fact, I think it blew the Oscars like ratings way out of the water.
Yeah. I
This
wouldn't
is
be surprised. It's a full production at
yeah,
this point.
yeah, like it's not just some little Twitch stream type deal. As a matter of fact, like I know they were saying like overseas is massively popular, so there was tens of millions of people tuning into this, and like Ferg said, it's turned into quite the production. Anyway, long story short, the very end, kind of like an end credit scene in a movie, they always do one more thing, and they unveil a big game, a big announcement, a big DLC that no one saw coming, different things like that. And you would expect that that would be a massive, a gigantic reveal. And they started out by saying, "Oh, this is the people that made Titanfall," different things like that. And then Highguard happened, which immediately
Yikes. Yikes.
immediately was just awful. It was a hero shooter, which we don't have enough of those already.
Yeah.
But the trailer, and forgot what's your thoughts on this. I thought the trailer looked terrible. Not gameplay aside, like it didn't advertise the game. I had no idea what I was looking at.
No, no. I think the main takeaway from me within the first 10, 15 seconds of the trailer was, oh, this is absolutely going to be free to play. Like it was, I didn't think the graphics were revolutionary by any means. It just had that free to play look and feel. Um, and I I think I get what they were trying to go with the reveal trailer of like this isn't going to be your normal royale or extraction shooter. We're throwing a bunch of different game modes, different ways to play, or different objective styles into it. But it just kind of looked like a hot mess. Like you couldn't tell what the objective was. You couldn't tell what was going on. Was it team based? Was it solo? Was it PVE? Like it was kind of all over the place for me. Um, and it was a shame that it was the final reveal. Um, I think a lot of the details that we've gotten since that reveal um, have been pretty disappointing too on it. But yeah, first 15 seconds, you knew what you were going to get, and it was a bad look.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought, I thought it was like going to be a new RPG at first, and I was kind of like, oh, that would be, you're
Yeah,
right
it
on horse. But then the moment they started fighting with like other people, but you couldn't really tell because they like did the no HUD thing, like the hardcore mode, where to make it cinematic. And I was kind of like, what am I watching? And you know, uh, it felt like one of those movies where you go on like Twitter or IMDb after the fact to like figure out what happened in the movie. Like that's what I had to do with the trailer of like,
yeah,
what did I just watch? And it turned out to be another generic thing. And like you touched on as well, I think it set itself up for failure immensely by being the final thing in the show. If you're going
yeah,
to, if you put that minute 35 into the show, people might still crap on it because it doesn't look great and it's not, you know, it's still a muddy trailer. It doesn't explain anything. It's a very oversaturated game or, genre to be in general. But to put yourself as the magnum opus, which we now know was likely Tencent's doing, because Tencent funded Highguard. They have a board member and they fund the Game Awards. So you can kind of tell why it was the last one. But I just think you really have to bring your A game. And I can't tell. Maybe
yeah,
they did think this was their A game. Maybe they thought this was the next big thing. They'd almost have to.
yeah. I think so. And correct me if I'm wrong. It was the Titanfall developers or
Yep.
creators of the Titanfall
Mm-hmm.
series, which I think adds to the disappointment because Titanfall 2 is renowned as one of the best feeling FPS games in a long time. And I think a lot of people were hoping for, Titanfall 3, Titanfall Remastered, whatever, getting back into that universe um, and seeing, again, that free to play feel. It just added to the disappointment of it being the final reveal. I was trying to look up the 2024 Game Awards reveal to compare it, and I'm not having any luck finding it. But you want that game to be massive, Elden Ring, something like that, and
Yeah.
hero shooter, free to play. It's just very disappointing.
Yeah. Because Elden Ring was the last one of the years, right? Or a DLC,
I
or the Night Rain DLC maybe
It may
was.
have been Night Rain, what they ended 2024 with. Like I said, I'm having a hard time finding it, but yeah, you want to go out with a bang. You don't want to go out with something that people are immediately going to say, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. And to give a little more context too on the kind of, I guess, how it ended up shaking out as well. So the trailer came out Everyone was mad, like we've talked about, right? It was the final reveal. It was supposed to be a godlike game that everyone was going to be looking forward to, or a DLC, or something big. And then they released this game that, to be honest, fell flat. And now, you or I probably would have handled this completely different. What they ended up doing, you would think, right? This falls on his face. People aren't sure of what the game was. A lot of people were confused, like myself. What do you think the first thing you do is? Is it A, clear the air, maybe clear up some questions that people have, provide some more gameplay, or calm people down and say, whoa, whoa, guys, this will be really fun. We got this. We couldn't fit this in the trailer, but this is coming. Or do you B, shut your mouth, say nothing about it, make people think that your studio went under already, and not say a single thing until the day before release? If you guess B, you could work at Lionheart Studio, or is Lionheart?
Doesn't matter anymore.
What? Yeah, or Wildlight Studios. That's who it was. Wildlight Studios. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter anymore because we'll talk about this in a little bit. But their company's like off LinkedIn. Their website's down. So they're probably gone. But yeah, it doesn't matter what their name is because they're gone. But that to me was the second biggest blunder. So third, I guess, because you make a crappy trailer. You put it the worst possible spot you could, set it up for failure. And then you don't damage control whatsoever.
No, nothing. Well, I mean, we were sending each other tweets of parody accounts and gaming accounts saying like, Highguard releases in 12 days. We still have not heard one word since the Game Awards, and nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get being maybe taken aback. Like, this had to be a huge shock to them. I can't imagine that they did this and they're like, dude, everyone's going to hate this. It's going to suck. Like, and judging based on that guy, the developer that put out that, I ain't reading all that, bro, article on Twitter, they internally thought this game was like the next coming of God. And so,
Yep.
If you feel that strongly about your game, I'm sure it was a smack to the face, but not a big enough smack to the face to where you just don't talk about it. You don't do any damage control. Like I said, if anything, if you believe that much in your product, if I, for this podcast, right, if I were to put out a trailer for it and people thought I was going to be talking about hot dogs and lemonade and you and I were going to be discussing like mustard recipes and they were like, that's stupid. Why would I want to listen to that? I would immediately put it out and be like, no, we talk about mustard for 10 seconds of the podcast. This is actually a gaming podcast. And people, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll tune in. And they just didn't do that. And there was a lot of misconceptions floating around about the game that didn't end up being true. But it didn't matter because they didn't clear the air. And so people spent a month and a half hating things that might not have even been true.
Yeah.
So that was egregious. And then the game came out. Jeff Keighley did his Jurassic Park gif of you're going to owe me an apology, which is funny because in the movie he doesn't get an apology either because people get eaten. Yep. But he puts out this tweet and he's kind of been backing it this whole time of like, this is the greatest game I've ever heard, which we know was just Tencent talking with a couple cents of their own. But then the game came out. And because of the worldwide conspiracy and and bad press about it, 200,000 people tried it. And to their point, 2 million total players have ever logged into it. They put out some stats after the fact. So 2 million people at some point or another played this game. And I want to pull up the Steam DB for this. I wish we had a guy like Joe Rogan has. So Jamie, pull that up because the Steam DB for Highguard, and I don't even know if it'll let me like search it because it's gone now. It's shut off. Yeah. Oh no, it does. Okay, so you can look it up. Oh god, there's an error for playing on Steam, and I can't find the player counts.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't even look it up. But it started at 200,000. I think it was 197,000, and then just tanked. Right down to nothing. The reviews, mostly negative on Steam. Some of that review brigading, we know that happens. People installed it, uninstalled it just so they could leave a crappy review.
Yeah.
But overwhelmingly, so even with all this hate, you at least, no press is bad press type thing. you get that much out there, and now 200,000 people have their hands on your thing. If it's truly a good game, some of those people stick around.
Yep.
But no one did.
No.
I neither you had no aspirations of playing it, even though it's free to
No,
play,
so
right?
I was on vacation when it dropped. So, I had a few days before I got home. And I think from the launch date to the time I got home, which was probably 3 or 4 days later, that's when, it essentially had tanked. The reviews were out, things were not looking good, and at that point, I wasn't going to put the effort in to download it and try it. I Maybe that was a problem. Maybe I would have loved it playing it. I think, we may get to that with Marathon, but um, yeah, I think the damage was done between the faulty announcement, no marketing, and then everybody, jumping on and saying, yeah, this is not really that good of a game, everybody. Um, you know, I had no interest in it at that point. And it was 3 or 4 days after it launched. So didn't take long.
Yeah, yeah, it was like an immediate failure. Now, I will say again, because of that high starting point of 200,000, it had a couple of days worth of people actually playing it, but again, then it fell right down into like less than 1,000, less than 2,000 at peak within less than a week, I think. And I think it did finally, they kind of put it out, and I remember one of the devs came out with a tweet that was like, "We don't need higher player counts." The absolute trash heap that's PC Gamer put out, on brand article saying it's not a flop. All these
Yeah.
people just trying to like gaslight us into believing that this was the greatest game ever. Everybody was loving it, and there was just a couple annoyed chuds in the review section on Steam,
Yeah.
but that wasn't the case. And so eventually we get to a point, player counts dwindling more. Every day I feel like there was like worse and worse. They had a big layoff at one point. They tried to step in and claim, no, 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 it's just the QA. This always happens, which does. After a game releases, there are some layoffs. Obviously, the game's not in development anymore. But you could tell it was more than that. They tried to gaslight us a couple more times. Finally, they put out the statement that all of us were not waiting for. That sounds horrible, but all of us knew was coming, and it
Yeah.
was the game was shutting down. So the game shut down officially on March 12th after 45 days live, which, give it credit, that blows Concord's like 9 days the hell out of the water. But 45 days is embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know within that span, I think they added a 5v5 mode to it where it originally was 3v3, and
Uh-huh.
it was what a lot of people were asking for, and they dropped it. And I don't think the immediate reaction was good. It was, I think, kind of oh, okay, maybe the game just isn't that good, rather than like, oh, this is exactly what the game needed. Um, so after the reception to that, I think that was the final nail in the coffin there. And like you said, we knew it was coming. 45 days on the market is pretty crazy.
Yeah, this kind of brings me into, and this is a point that I wanted to really talk about. This is one of the things that like made me the most mad, or the most like mind blown, when we were, like I said, that got us to make this podcast. Is this trend of, and this maybe it applies in other industries too, but it seems really common right now in the gaming industry as a whole, is all of this investment of time and capital and man hours and marketing and product development, all this stuff for years and years. Concord had like 400 million. This game was rumored to be close to 100 million, depending on who you believe. All said and done, you spin up whole new companies to make these games. You have backers like Tencent, all this stuff. They do all of this only to not plan anywhere past release date. And it is one of the most mind boggling trends. I can't wrap my head around it. It is, anytime if you go online right now and you ask, you search forums or whatever, if you wanted to start like a restaurant, right? All of them say, don't plan on turning a profit for 12 months, have enough money to go a year or 2 years in your new business that you create before you turn a profit. Save up money so that you don't you don't open your restaurant and have to close it in week 2 because you didn't sell enough hamburgers. Like, everyone has that advice, and yet gaming suddenly decided to throw that out of the window. And if a game doesn't make $13 trillion on release day, they physically don't have the money to keep the lights on anymore. Or they choose to pull all of their investment back and just cut their losses, so to speak. And that to me really just does not make any sense. You have games like No Man's Sky, right, which launched possibly one of the worst video game launches of all time. They
Yep,
invested
I
in it.
remember it.
Yeah, you played it, didn't you? You played No
I
Man's
did.
Sky at
I
launch,
did.
yeah.
I was so excited for it, and launch was such a disappointment.
Yeah. And now look at it. That game has more content. Now, I haven't played it just because it's very overwhelming to me of how much stuff there is in
Yeah,
it. It's very much so an AJ game, to be honest. But I just haven't
it
played
is.
it.
It is.
But like, they invested in it. They waited. They probably did some money stuff to make sure that, hey, this sucks on release. We're going to keep the lights on for 6 months. We're going to churn out 2 or 3 updates that completely make the game better. We're going to bring people back in. But Highguard, Concord, all these other games all of a sudden seemingly believe that if we physically cannot pay bills if we don't make $2 billion on release weekend. And I think that's just a horrible trend to have, because you're going to have games that don't perform as well as you think. You're going to have games that aren't good until season 2, until 4 updates have come out, 3 patches, 4 hotfixes, and now finally it's a decent game. Some players start trickling in. You get the good word of mouth going. You should not be able to, and obviously you can't make laws about this, but you should not be able to release a video game unless you can fund it and guarantee, as part of a buying agreement with a user, guarantee that it is online for a minimum of 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not to throw the corporate phrase out here, but it's what I hear and what I say. We're building the plane as we fly it. Um, and they just, I don't think these companies, these producers have a clear plan on what their expectations are. They think once we're going to get the gamers money, like, it is what it is, we can figure it out then. And we're finding that strategy is just not paying off anymore. I think some people are finally starting up to step up and speak with their wallets rather than paying for these games and waiting for them to get fixed down the line. It's we're not going to put we're not going to put in the time, the effort, the money to begin with until we know that there's a solid product here and something that you're not going to shut the servers down on me and have my money 2 months later.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point to touch on, because that scares people off. Like, who's going to buy a game? And there are always going to be these experimental or new games in an IP. Like Forza Horizon 6 isn't going to have this issue. Madden 27 isn't going to have this issue. But like,
Yeah.
these new games that pop up, who is now, after Concord, after Highguard, after there's another game that shut down like a year after its release, like, who's going to give their money? I know I'm not. I'm not going to, and they're giving refunds. And I did just see, as a matter of fact, today on Twitter, they're refunding if you bought cosmetics, right? You're getting the money back now, and all that stuff, which is great. But you're hurting the faith with the consumer, and that doesn't get fixed. It's certainly
Yeah.
not overnight.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
I think I think you're seeing it bleed into marathon right now. I think the main discussion over marathon is screenshots of the Steam player count. Is this game going to last longer than 3 months? Which is kind of a shame because, like I keep alluding to, I think Marathon is a fantastic game and I've been having a blast playing it. But I think there's just so much fear that people have going into games like this where they don't know if there's a solid plan. So it's not worth it to give it a chance when you may be missing out on a game. For me, which I don't really play extraction shooters very often, has pretty much fully brought me into the genre, and it's something that I want to continue to play. And that's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see ramifications of this going far into the future. And this will not be the last time we cover Highguard.
Yeah.
Despite it being shut down, I feel like we're going to it's going to rear its head on this channel quite a few times going forward. But we will keep it moving just because I feel like honestly there's 4 hours worth of content to talk about with
Yeah.
that whole disaster alone.
We'll
But
come back to it when they release their behind the scenes of Highguard.
yeah, when another developer has a temper tantrum on Twitter, we'll we'll cover it and
Yeah.
we'll dig this dead horse right back up. But we'll kind of move on to the next point, and this kind of flew under the radar. Not a whole lot of people talked about this. In and of itself was just a small piece of a blog post on the future rather of one of my favorite gaming franchises, which was Assassin's Creed, and that is that all of the leaks and rumors are true. We are getting a Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake. This one's called Resynced. And that will be, they haven't given a date. They kind of allude to the fact maybe this year, definitely soon ish. A lot of the leaks, seem to think end of this year as kind of a time window. And it really does sound like they're trying to modernize. So it's not just a new coat of paint. They're trying to modernize it. We don't know any of these details yet. These are all leaks just because all they did was say, yes, we're making this. Here's a picture of the title. But a lot of leaks say that they're bringing like the RPG combat back. So it's not like the classic Assassin's Creed, counter kill method. They're streamlining some other things, different things like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I never really played that much Black Flag, which is crazy. Just
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. Not to cut you off there,
no, no,
but
no.
I think Black Flag is kind of renowned as the best Assassin's Creed. I mean, I know you and I have played Assassin's Creed from its early days. I have gravitated towards loving the earlier ones more than the later entries. Um, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, those were kind of my bread and butter, my favorites of the series. Odyssey kind of brought in those new RPG elements. I loved Odyssey, but some of the entries surrounding it wasn't too big of a fan of. I'm super pumped for Black Flag. Did not play it back in the heyday, but I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as always, guys, as we get actual news about this as it comes out, not just leaks and rumors, although we will cover leaks and rumors, but hopefully we get more info on this. And in the coming months, we'll be talking about it here. So make sure to stay tuned and keep the ball rolling with that. Next up, another big announcement. And again, we don't have a whole lot of information on it, but the next generation Xbox was unveiled called Project Helix. Now, again, not a whole lot has been said. A lot of the leaks and rumors suggest that it's a PC Xbox hybrid. They did, I think, in the official release. Excuse me, I think in the official release they did hint at it being able to play your PC games as well and utilize PC Game Pass. So they kind of more or less confirmed that this is going to be a PC Xbox hybrid. But yeah, they don't have any more information on it. I think the new CEO of Xbox talked about it to like industry insiders and like investors and stuff at a recent conference, but nothing public yet. But at the very least, they did unveil it. They unveiled the code name, and we know that the wheels are churning. We're
Yeah,
we're getting into it. So
yeah. New consoles are always exciting. It's a unique concept, a hybrid between a home console and a PC. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, but um, I don't know. All the new consoles that come out, it kind of feels like you get hyped for games again. You get in that rumor mill, you get into the um, not the release mill, the reveal mill, and it makes you kind of feel like a little kid again, waiting for that new system to come out.
oh yeah, yeah. The day that my Series X was supposed to
Yep.
arrive at my house was like I felt like I was 8 years old, and
Yep.
we were obviously still working from home because of everything with the pandemic back then. But I mean, that was one of the best days, and I didn't
Yeah.
even really have a game. I think I got Valhalla, which was a cross-platform, so it wasn't
Yep.
like a strictly new gen. And that's kind of we'll get into this later as more details come out about it. But I will say my one biggest hope is that they do not hamstring the power of whatever that console is, however beefy they can make it, whatever technological strides they can make with it. I hope they do not hamstring it by stringing the Xbox Series X along, and dear God, please not the Xbox One family, um, along like they did this
Enough is enough.
generation.
Cut it off.
Yeah, like you.
We don't want it anymore.
No, I'm like you look at all these previous generations, the huge jump in technological prowess year after year is because they eventually said we can't make GameCube games anymore, guys. We're moving on.
Yeah.
We can't make 360 games, guys. Xbox One, and you see leaps and whatever. And they did not do that this generation, PlayStation or Xbox. Every single game up until maybe this past year, finally they've started being like, all right, this is just Series X
Yeah.
and PS5.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't do that going forward. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you have any
Agreed.
hopes for the console before we get official word?
Yeah. I mean, I have since I've got my Series X, have since got a PC, so I kind of have both sides, console and PC. Um, so it may not even be a situation of something that I get if they are going to introduce the hardware and kind of really develop into the PC world as well, simultaneously. So I think we'll just have to see with the details that come out. I mean, if we're talking about $1,000 to $1,500 device, probably not going to happen for me. But time will tell with it. And AJ, just to go back real quick, new Xbox CEO, with this new console coming. She had the press release, all that, blah blah blah. But just a couple quotes that I wanted to touch on in her first message to Microsoft staff. She laid out her three main commitments, and this is from an IGN article. In quotes, great games, the return of Xbox, and future of play. And another quote from that article, no tolerance for bad AI. So I think, she may be shifting the whole we're all friends, this industry is for everybody, which has its place, don't get me wrong. Kind of shifting back into that competitive mindset, to combat PlayStation, I think is a good sign. I think competition in the game industry only leads to innovation and some good things. So I think, with that new CEO and that new direction paired with the new console, um, it's exciting to see where Xbox is heading right now.
Yeah, that's something that we don't have in our script in terms of because that was just before we even came up with this idea. But obviously, there is a brand new CEO
Yeah.
of Microsoft, well, Xbox, I should say. And so like you touched on, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where they can take that, and what that with them immediately, like as soon as she gets on board, putting out all these press releases announcing a new Xbox. Like you can tell that they're trying to take a pretty aggressive approach on it. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I don't know how much I believe her on the no bad AI thing, just because she comes from a
Yeah.
strictly AI background.
Yeah.
um, but again, I mean, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt until they prove otherwise. But yeah, that'll be something that again throughout the course of the next year, hopefully on this podcast, we're able to cover a lot of cool updates and information, keep you guys informed on that. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, we'll see if she's if she's about what she's saying, or if we're in for another painful 5 years of Xbox. So
Yeah.
both of us are kind of
We'll see.
you know, not team Xbox guys because we've had PlayStations over the years, but I tend to gravitate more towards Xbox myself, or at least
Yeah.
hope for them to succeed. But yeah, and to kind of move right along, I think the next thing as well is, unfortunately, and we kind of touched on it earlier, industry wide, there's been a lot of layoffs, but most recently and most perplexingly, the Battlefield devs faced a massive wave of layoffs. I think it was earlier this week or late last week, and this is affecting teams across all of their development studios, um, which is really odd because we both
Yeah.
loved the game and the game did really well. So,
Like, it did more than really well. It did the best. It's
yeah.
7 million copies in the first 3 days, um, leading to layoffs is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because it could be that shedding of the skin post launch that we, said that Highguard tried to pass off their layoffs as being. But it seemed like a pretty big cut. It wasn't just
Yeah,
like, hey, we let go, 100 folks across our team that were really just there to push the game across. I know even in my line of work in IT, right, we've had, things where we build up the workforce to finish a project and then, 3 or 4 contractors have to be let go, stuff like that. So this could be part of it. But it is really just weird, like you said. I mean, this was a massive. This wasn't just good by Battlefield standards, good release. It beat Call of Duty for the first
yeah,
time ever. At least to my first time in God knows how many years. But
yeah.
it, and they still get layoffs.
It's yeah. It's a bummer to see. It's we go from the spectrum of Highguard laying off people because they can't support the game for more than 45 days, and we go from Battlefield laying off people because they had their biggest launch ever. So yeah,
And it kind of goes back to like we were talking about with the zombie map as well. These are multi-billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar game releases in terms of money gained from the release. And yet the post-launch content for Battlefield has been woeful at best. And I can't imagine that this is going to make seasons 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 any better.
no,
Unless it was strictly, again, I'm really trying to give them any kind of benefit of the doubt. Unless it was strictly, those finish line folks, cutting your workforce in any capacity is not going to help you get more maps out quicker. And
no,
they've already, said, "Oh, we hear your complaints. We're trying to put them out as fast as we can." Well, if you lay off how many hundred or thousand of people, you're not going to be making maps any
yeah,
quicker.
yeah, yeah. On top of the likely morale decrease of the staff that's already there. It can't feel good to be part of a studio that you're breaking records and knowing your job may still be on the line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of indicative of, I think, the job industry as a whole. I think everyone's kind of feeling that. That it's just like, for whatever reason these companies just keep shedding. And I think if you're a game developer, especially the last 3 or 4 years, really since the pandemic, it's a scary place to work. I can't
yeah,
imagine working in the games industry. I'm worried that they're going to lay me off and I don't even work for them.
yeah,
It's like it's kind of a wild place to be, and it's always been a volatile industry. And people, their resume is this long because they've always jumped. I developed this game and then I hopped over to this studio and made these 2 games, but it just seems maybe we're hearing about it more often. But I think the biggest thing is this is the first, like you said, commercially successful, like just absolute knocked it out of the park release. And then you're hearing about layoffs as opposed to you expect it with Highguard or with the Concord
yeah,
studio shutting down and things like that. Like, of course, a game doesn't sell well, it tanks, you're going to get fired. Like, what? There's no money to pay you. But when there's billions of dollars raked in, you beat Call of Duty, you beat everyone else out. People love your game. They still love your game, even though some
you have a
people,
cosmetic store where you're likely still pulling in
yeah,
a lot of money after the fact from concurrent users. It's bizarre.
yeah. And so you and I have played the first couple of seasons. They've been really lackluster. I wish they had about 3 or 4 more maps in the game at this point. I think the guns are right. There's plenty of guns to play with and
Yeah,
everything, but map wise, really sad. And I think this is a game that they really should have capitalized on. This should have been their game that they went in. They said, "All right, boys, we finally did it. We've been trying to kill COD for years. Somebody
yeah,
finally did it. Let's put all of our eggs into this basket. Three maps a month. Just piling on content, events, cosmetics, whatever you need to do." And it just feels like they're just like, the game's
yeah.
out.
Yeah, and I think the one thing with Battlefield is a lot of the identity in those games, especially in multiplayer, are the maps rather than the
Yeah,
guns or the camos, right? It was pretty cool to see they actually had a decent gun progression system in Battlefield 6. It definitely wasn't akin or like COD, where I think you have a lot more of a hook to keep playing and keep kind of grinding COD's progression over Battlefield's. But to me, Battlefield's always been the identity in the maps, and only getting 1 or 2 months after the game has launched, it's pretty disappointing. And I think it's, those first 2 seasons have been lackluster. And in case they, or unless they really turn it around, we're going to continue to see that in seasons 3, 4, if there are any more after a third or a fourth.
Yeah, and I think this could turn out to be very well one of the biggest what could have been stories
Yeah.
in gaming. Obviously, Battlefield faithful are going to play this game until Battlefield 7 comes out, and maybe even long after. I know I'm still going to keep it on my hard drive. Pop
Yeah.
into a couple of games with friends every couple of weeks, but it's really sad to see, and we our hearts go out to all those folks that lost their job, especially when it was such an amazing release. You guys did an incredible job. And hopefully some other studio uses your expertise, and we
Yeah.
see another quality shooter out there on the market. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll continue to give updates on that. Obviously, as future seasons come out, and if any, if they downsize the studios anymore, and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll move on then. And then this is kind of a recent development. This was one that I had kind of put on here in the last couple of days, and that is NVIDIA finally unveiled DLSS 5.0. Now, in the past, I don't know the intricate ins and outs, but it's essentially like AI frame generation. Essentially, sometimes doubles or triples your frames because the game engine itself renders, X amount of frames, and then DLSS kind of fills in the gaps to give you a lot more frames. Again, I don't know the technical aspects of it.
More frames equal better.
Yeah, it makes it smoother. It just guesses basically on the interim. This takes things a step further, and it almost layers like an AI, like it tries to improve the graphics. So before it just helped with frames, essentially saying hey, you animate these 2 frames. I'll fill in 1 or 2 in the middle to make it a little more seamless of a transition, make it look like it's running faster. This is just something completely different from what I've seen, and
Yeah.
people are angry to say the least. I've not seen a single person like this.
No, no, me either. I think to your point, it's more of an overhaul on what they claim to be lighting, and really enhancing lighting in images. Um, but there's just something about it to me that kind of hits the uncanny, and I think it, from some of the screenshots that I've seen, have been a little unsettling to me.
Yeah,
I haven't liked it, and I feel like if I'm playing a game where I'm seeing that all around, especially on um, human characters and faces and bodies, it's I think it's just there's something off, and I think it is just a little bit too uncanny valley.
yeah. To me, you don't mess with the artwork that other humans have done, or if you do it in like the way of like a remaster mod that another human works on, or that studio does when they make a remaster themselves. And this is almost like it's trying to do real time remastering. Both they claim, like you said, just lighting, but it's more than that, right? That Resident Evil screenshot, somebody said it looked like they used a Snapchat filter,
Yeah,
like the makeup filter on the lady's face, and somebody else likened it to that time they tried to, like that meme that went around, if they tried to fix the painting of like Jesus, I think it was, and it was just like that blob, that like weird like smudgy
yeah,
blob, like that's what it looks like, and it's not great. As of right now, I think they said it only runs on 5090s anyways, which nobody has because no one can afford
no,
because of AI, ironically enough, driving prices for stuff like that up. And something that I learned very shortly before starting this recording, the devs didn't even know about it. Like the games that were used in the trailer, they didn't know. They literally found it
that's
out at the
news
same
to
time as
me.
us. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that just blows my mind that you're going to take my hard work. You're going to put
Yeah.
your stupid AI, which,
Slap a filter over it.
yeah, like, not even let you know. I mean, I'm sure the higher ups, obviously, they had to green light the product being in there, but the men and women that worked on it had no clue. And then, finally we have Nvidia CEO, who is just an absolute jerk, and has shown himself as such in the last year with all this AI stuff. He comes out and he's, you know, chastising people that are complaining about it, saying that people are ruining a good thing by complaining about AI. I've never before seen, and I think AI and maybe the metaverse type stuff, which also shut down today. But I've never before seen companies try to force people to love a product and chastise them when they don't. You know, I, companies are now they've sunk so much money into AI, that they're doing stuff like this, and I think, before it's just the general populace, but gamers have a bad reputation, for better or worse, of when they are upset about stuff, they do not let it go. They do not just complain
Highguard.
once and they like Highguard. They do not just pipe down about it. So you bring in AI, which the general populace pretty much universally hates, at least generative AI, and you bring that into a space like gaming, with a horrible trailer that they did, and and you tell people, like, combine that with the gamer outrage, as it were. I think this might be a make or break moment for Nvidia and the industry as a whole. Well, the
Yeah, I
AI
think
part of industry.
I think they need to be walking on eggshells at this point, given the reaction. It's I think it's just it's not where it needs to be. I don't want to be an old man yelling at the sky, but like I am not an AI person, so to see that kind of slapped on games and that uncanny, I mean, to me it kind of reminds me of the whole NFT in games push where we saw
Yeah.
some companies leading this innovative charge on bringing NFTs to games, and I feel like the industry has had a similar reaction to NFTs, as we're seeing right now, and it's just something that's not going to pan out well, or they're going to pull back from and reevaluate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a perfect, like, allegory. The NFT thing, like, again, they were just shoveling that in our face for no reason. Nobody liked it. At least in terms of gaming, it caught them much worse in gaming than it did elsewhere, and elsewhere it kind of
Yeah,
burned out very quickly as well. But yeah, I don't like the precedent this set. Again, this is going to be something that we're probably going to talk about, almost every episode as it develops. If more companies try this, but yeah, keep your eyes open, guys, for DLSS 5.0. Obviously, it's an elective thing, but if you get a game that either has no DLSS, and you're struggling to get 20 frames, or the only option is DLSS 5.0, then kind of where do we go? So we'll see how this develops. We'll kind of kick this can down the road, and talk about it more as more information comes out. But I'm really hoping that the people assert their will on this and
yeah,
possibly, push this where it needs to go. But the next thing is, and this is kind of came out of left field. I didn't expect this anytime soon, and that is a massive update and a DLC. Two different things, not just an update for the DLC. A massive game update and brand new DLC for Starfield. So, as you guys know, late 2023, Starfield came out, the brand new IP from Bethesda Game Studios. It is now the third counterpart to their Fallout and their Elder Scrolls franchises. I almost slipped up there and said their Skyrim franchise. I almost did it. But they had those two for years and years and years. Finally, they brought in the third pillar, which is Starfield, to less than great acclaim. I had a decent time with it for a couple dozen hours. Didn't grip me. I didn't live in a world like Skyrim. But this new update looks pretty promising. They look to be adding a whole bunch of new stuff. We'll probably spend a decent chunk of an episode devoted to it when the update comes out, covering everything. But there looks to be like changes to the biggest one is like the world traveling, so it's a little more like No Man's Sky. And then yeah, there's a whole new DLC with a whole new faction and new weapons and enemies and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, what kind of stuff stood out to you on that whole reveal?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played Starfield in a while, like you said, 2023. So I put some decent time into it. I actually think I enjoyed it a lot more than what the industry thought. What you thought. I definitely got pretty far into the game. I never beat it, but I did put quite a bit into it. I don't know if it's going to quite bring me back at this point. I need to look into it a little bit more. I think this was just a little bit too recent for me to really dig into. But it's interesting to see. I know the first DLC for Starfield was very, very poorly received. It was, I think, a few hours of content, and that's it. So I'm hoping this DLC's, brings a little bit more. Um, Excited to see what the update's all about, and once I get into it a little bit more, maybe Starfield will be back on the PC, and I'll give it another playthrough.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way here. I enjoyed what I played of it, but I have not played it since. I did not get the first DLC because of the negative reaction, and it was only a couple hours. So I'm interested to see how this. There's been a couple big updates for the game. They added like vehicles, and this one, like I said, they're getting new POIs, which enhances the exploration aspect. It's much easier to fly. There's more things to do. It seems like they're really fleshing out the game. I will say that Todd Howard kind of confirmed. We'll talk more about him in a little bit, but he did kind of confirm that the studio has now fully shifted their focus away from Starfield. Not that there's not still devs working on it and coming up with patches and maybe another update or two, but they're now fully devoted to Elder Scrolls 6, such that our grandchildren might be able to play it before I die. But so this is the final big bang for Starfield. So we'll definitely be covering it here, and we'll let you guys know as more details come out, as the DLC and the update come out. I think in the beginning of April, so maybe in two or
Yeah,
three more episodes here. We'll do a deep dive on that, let you guys know about it, and we might even hop back in. I know that if there's a lull in the gaming timeline there, I'm definitely down to hop back in and see what it has for us. So
yeah,
yeah, moving right along. Another kind of update news. The Switch. Normally, I wouldn't talk about a firmware update for the Switch, but there is big news that now the Switch 2, if you guys have a Switch 2, you can actually, while you're playing in handheld, there's an option to switch on for Switch 1 games that even while handheld, it runs as if it was docked. So you get the full performance, full frames, full resolution on those older Switch 1 games, even in the palm of your hand as you're playing on the couch, or on the plane or wherever. So that to me is a pretty huge one. A lot of people have said that that has drastically improved their enjoyment of the Switch 1 games on the Switch 2. Um, and I think this is finally like seeing a next gen console use its power, throw its weight around. And, hey, I'm strong enough now. I can play what I used to have to be docked for, undocked just off of
yeah,
power. So, I don't think there's too much else to really say about that. I just wanted to throw that in there
yeah.
because I felt that it was a pretty cool thing, especially for you Switch players that still have obviously a huge backlog of Switch 1 games to play, since there's not a lot of Switch 2 native games yet. So yeah, that's huge. And then, yeah, just some smaller stories to kind of go over. Borderlands DLC was talked about a little bit more. Again, that'll be something we'll cover on a future episode closer to release. But there will be a new DLC for that. Both of us played the hell out of Borderlands 4 on release. Kind of fell off
Yeah.
shortly for us. I think this the first DLC for them?
First bigger DLC. I think there was an event around Halloween. Um, yeah, I think that's the first one. Excited to see new Vault Hunter. Um, we've seen some snips and some gameplay, so excited to kind of see his tree a little bit more in depth. I think Borderlands is one of the games where I am more prone to jump back in to try a new character. Just given it's, in my opinion, a little bit easier to do that. It's a little more, pick up and play. rather than some other games. So yeah, it should be pretty sweet to check out. I'm hoping it brings the game back into the rotation, and kind of works on some end game things that I think we fell off because.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to jump back into it. And again, we will cover in more detail, let you know about the Vault Hunter named Cash, and what kind of skills he has, and what content in general is coming a little bit closer to release. But keep your eyes and ears open for that, as that will be releasing, I think, sometime in April. So that's the news for Borderlands. There's also, I don't have a whole lot of information, but I do know that they are adding an AI companion type experience to the Xbox, which, again, I don't think they've released a whole lot of information on what it is or what it does. I think it's kind of an offshoot of Microsoft's Copilot that they're adding into the Xbox. So hopefully something I can turn off because I don't want any part of that.
Leave it out.
Yeah.
Leave it out.
It already just fills me with dread after like what we talked about, like the new CEO is like, oh, we don't want AI in our games, and then like 2 weeks later they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're adding this cool little AI thing. It is no, please don't.
Yeah.
But we'll get, as I don't think that's coming out anytime soon. But when it does, we'll kind of dive into that and see the ramifications. Is it super intrusive? Or is it just, kind of something that you can click on if you need help finding a game in the store or something? So, yeah, I don't. I'm not too excited or anything about that, as you can tell. But, and then to kind of go along with, we touched on it briefly during the Starfield news, but Todd Howard, in an interview kind of surrounding all of that, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole interview, but he did mention at one point that he is, quote, sick of talking about Elder Scrolls 6 and wishes he never did the reveal back in 2018.
I wish he didn't do it either, AJ. Oh my goodness.
I mean, I get that at the time, a lot of people, and still to this day, but a lot of people were like, is Elder Scrolls 6 happening? Is Elder Scrolls 6 happening? So I get them being like, well, fine, here's a trailer, but you can't do that 9 years out from the game.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a long time, but I didn't think it was going to be a GTA 5 to GTA 6 time. So I wish they didn't reveal it the way they did. I think back in the day, a simple, yes, we're working on it would have gone over a lot better in the long term.
Yeah, I think they underestimated how much they'd have to work on Starfield. And at the time, I think Starfield was in its infancy. So I think maybe to them, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll crush Starfield out, and then we'll get these guys Elder Scrolls 6, or maybe even work on them together. But, ES6 is still a year, 2 years away at this point. And that's like optimistic thinking. It could be up to 3 or 4 years from now. And so now we're going on the anniversary, like the 9th anniversary or the 8th anniversary of them revealing this. You can't, like you said, if you did a simple, hey, chill guys, yes, we are working on Elder Scrolls 6, but do not expect it for like 10 years.
Yep.
But they didn't really do that. They said like no time soon. It wasn't like they were like this fall. But they were very much so just kind of like, yeah, dude, get ready, it's coming.
Every year that passes, those expectations are going to grow more and more, and going to get to a point where you're never gonna meet expectations, no matter how good the game is. So
no, and I think Todd's learned his lesson because he's talked like they did the shadow drop for Oblivion remastered.
Yep.
Went over incredibly. He's talked about how he wants to get back to doing like what he did with Fallout 4, where it was like announce it at E3, it comes out 3 months later, stuff like that. So hopefully they've learned their lesson. They usually are pretty good about that timeline. They were not this time, and it's already backfired. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. As always, as we get more information, we will cover it with you guys. But I just thought it was funny. I had to sneak that bit of the interview in.
We're all sick of it, Todd. We're all sick of it.
Like, oh my god! Especially when he teases us. I feel like a couple months ago he was like, "We have a playable build. We're playing it." It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Is it coming out next year, or is it like playable as in like there's 2 polygons on the screen
Maybe in this lifetime.
that if you wiggle the joystick it moves? Like, so I don't know, but yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully, sometime in calendar year 2027, but probably 2028. And then real short, the last tiny little news segment I wanted to cover just because I thought it was hilarious. There is another Pokemon ripoff game that's coming out that actually rips off Pal World. So it's like it's
Rip
an
off of a
Inception
rip off. That'll
levels.
go over very well.
Yeah, I'm sure the Nintendo legal team is like just rubbing their hands. They're so ready for it.
Cracking their
It's
fingers.
just a big payday coming their way because this is. I haven't seen. I don't think they've released gameplay. They've released a couple pictures. It's called Pikmon, by the way. Which, what the hell does that
Not
mean?
even cutting it a little close, guys.
Yeah, like,
Not even trying.
no.
You can copy my homework, but don't make it too obvious.
Well, the best part is they like one of the lead characters on like the box art or the key art or whatever you want to talk about. It's literally just Charizard. It's like if you told AI, like if you told like ChatGPT, can you draw
DLSS
Charizard
5.0?
If you use DLSS 5.0 on Scarlet and Violet, you would get whatever the heck this thing is. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to cover this in a disaster news, whenever they get sued into oblivion and there's just like a crater where their office used to be by Nintendo. And honestly, Power, we might see the first ever team up of Nintendo and somebody that they sued just to sue somebody else because of how egregious this game is. But yeah, that about wraps up the news. And so the last kind of section that we wanted to have in this every single week is kind of going over what we've been playing and give a little short review if it's a new game that came out and it's something that we're playing, do we enjoy it and everything like that. And so, I'll start off. We talked about a little bit before. The big game that I've been playing for the last 2 weeks now, tomorrow will be 2 weeks, is Pokemon Pokopia, which, like I said in the intro when we were going over, kind of the weekly update for it, it has completely taken over my life. I already have 55 hours of gameplay in this game. For reference, like I said, it came out 2 weeks ago. I've played other games. I've had a life.
Have you?
I forgot
Have
my middle
you?
name on St. Patrick's Day weekend, and yet I've still found time to play this game for 55 hours, and I'm like lowballing compared to some people. I've seen people post towns that 300 hours to make. Absolutely insane stuff. I know the guy that runs Cerebi, which is like the big Pokemon like guide website, has already put in 200 hours. It is an incredible game. Right now, it's my game of the year. And I foresee it being that way until Forza Horizon 6. If not, it might even take who knows. It is everything that I've wanted in a video game for a very long time. Now, obviously, you have to like these kind of video games, but I think it's a genre that appeals to many people. It's the reason why I bought my Switch 2, and surprisingly enough, I'm not alone in that. This seems to be a console mover. Every console needs that exclusive that moves sales, and I've seen countless tweets of people running out, okay, you guys convinced me, and buying a Switch 2 strictly for this game. Now, obviously, they'll use it for other games going forward, but I think it's a huge move for the Switch 2. If anyone doesn't know what it is, like I said before, it's a mix of like Minecraft, Animal Crossing, and Pokemon kind of jumbled up into one incredible experience. And it's a game that you can sit down, play for an hour before bed, work on your town, add a little building at the end of the street, fix up your roads. It has that it also has that very satisfying like cleanup feeling. The game takes place in an apocalyptic scenario where kind of the Pokemon world just ends. The humans all go to space and the Pokemon are just kind of left. So you have that aspect of like cleanup games, right? Where you clean up this rubble here and you notice that a bunch of dirt has fallen onto the street. So you clear that up. It's just, if you have ADHD, this game's going to just tie you to the headboard. It's going to be crazy. I've had an absolutely insane time with it. My fiance Chelsea as well. She's been playing the absolute heck out of it. It's great for kids. It's great for adults. It's great if you have 10 hours to play a day. It's great if you have 45 minutes to play a day. There's daily tasks like Animal Crossing have that keep bringing you back. And I think this is a true home run for Nintendo. Sales wise, console wise, I think this is the first game that really moves the needle. Donkey Kong and Mario Kart, all those games, they undoubtedly shipped consoles as well. But I think this is the first one where people that didn't really care about the Switch 2, this is a franchise and a game, for how well it's made that gets other people. If you're buying Donkey Kong in the first week of the Switch, and buying your Switch to play Donkey Kong or Mario Kart World, you strike me as the type of person that was going to buy a Switch 2 anyways. Does that make sense? Like, you may have bought it strictly to play those games, but you were probably going to buy it anyways. This is a game where somebody that hasn't played anything since the pandemic days of playing Animal Crossing, they're going to go out and drop that 500. So that has been the biggest thing that I've been playing over the last 2 weeks, and I cannot recommend it enough. There are some quirks with it. The inventory is a little bit lackluster. And the building controls I don't like that much until you get to end game. You get kind of an ability that helps with it. Still not great. I would like to see a lot of that shored up. But yeah, absolutely incredible game. I could see myself putting a couple hundred hours into it. So yeah, that's been my biggest game.
Can you get a Snorlax?
Yes,
Does he fit inside a house you can build?
certain houses. Yes. So you can build a Minecraft
Deal.
house. Like you just place blocks and create a house. And you build whatever
Oh,
you
okay.
want.
Okay.
But then you can also there's the Animal Crossing type houses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I thought it was. I didn't know there was the Minecraft-esque
Oh yeah,
building to it as well.
you
So,
could tear the world down block by block. And then there's also prefab like houses that you just dump materials into and
gotcha.
your Pokemon build them up. But yeah, some of the houses you can fit. The smallest house you
Gotcha.
can't fit large Pokemon into. But
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's a dangerous game for you.
yeah.
Gonna be putting in. I could see you reaching the 500 hour mark on that one.
Yeah, there's always something to do. You get on. Oh, it would look really cool if I just took this piece of the
Mm-hmm.
2 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so yeah, it's a great game. I highly recommend everyone listening to buy it. If you have a Switch 2 or if you've been wanting to get a Switch 2. Um, but yeah, that's my recommendation for the week. What I've been playing, and I'll probably tell you guys next week that I'm still playing Pokopia. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah, I haven't picked it up yet. It's on the backlog of games that I definitely want to check out. I feel like for those kinds of games, though, for me, I need nothing else to play. Like, I
yeah,
can't juggle that with something else because I'll lose interest in it too quickly and then forget where I was at or what I was doing and not want to jump back in. So, got to find the right time for that one. But it's good to hear it's getting such good reviews. I think to your point, like I expected Mario Kart to come out and that not be the one to push the needle. Um, Donkey Kong Bonanza, I thought was going to do a little bit more than it did, but I think Pocopia's right now the system defining game, like you said, until we see that next Mario, that next big one from Nintendo. So
yeah. So I'm going to pass the buck over to you now because you have been, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you've been playing Marathon since
yeah,
its release. How has that been treating you?
marathon. It's been an interesting game for sure. I think like I was talking about earlier, Um, there were the main discourse around it the past couple of weeks have been the player count, Steam charts, screenshots, which is crazy. Um, but I've been loving it, just like you're loving Pocopia. Um, I think the first couple hours are a little bit slow. But once you get into the game, once you start to learn the extraction systems and how the game progresses, once you start getting that better gear and how things open up a little bit more in movement and shell tech, which is their class system. in their class system tech. In learning the maps, it opens up into a game that I've only been enjoying more and more. Like I touched on earlier too, like I'm not an extraction shooter guy. I never got into Tarkov. I never got into Hunt Showdown. Yeah, I think it was Hunt Showdown, which I think still has a pretty big community. This is it just gripped me, and now I definitely want to check out other extraction shooters as they come. I think Bungie has made a very good game. They haven't had the best track record the past couple years with Destiny 2. I think they have been definitely on the decline, and lately have delayed some of their DLC for Destiny 2 in lieu of putting all their forces, into Marathon to try to get it as best as it can be, and I think it's really paying off. On launch there were 3 maps. The first 2 maps were good. I think the general consensus was they're extraction shooter maps, right? They're kind of cool. They have some decent landmarks, nothing to stand out. But when people started to get into that third map, more of approaching the end game map that the game has to offer right now. There have been popular extraction shooter players and streamers that have said and quoted that they think it's the best extraction map they've ever played in any of the games. It is a pretty unique and drastic switch comparing Outpost, their near end game map, to their first 2 maps. And it feels like a new game in some ways. So I've been loving Marathon. They've been doing some ARG stuff in the background. What does ARG stand for? Do you know what ARG stands for?
In what context? I'm not sure.
It's like a background Easter egg. Raffle Waffle's on it. Scaro 9's on it, or Scaro 6 is on it. They have websites that link to other websites that link to
Okay.
like a live
Yeah.
stream of an in-game camera showing the next map, things like
Okay.
that. They have a massive ARG going on right now that I think Mr. Raffle Waffles has kind of cracked at this point, which is now driving a community effort to unlock the true endgame map. So I think they got a lot of good things going for it. People are really coming around to the game when they're actually trying it and giving it a chance. I'm super excited to see how it continues and see how they carry this out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think it's surpassed my expectations. Obviously, it's not my type of game. I don't think it's ever one that I'll get. Just because as much as you say you don't like extraction shooters, I probably like them 10 times worse.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's on my radar, but it was very much so on my is this going to be a failure radar? Because so many people tried to lump it in as like, oh, this is Concord 3, Highguard number 2. And I think the original iteration, back with like the stolen art style and like that horrible first trailer that everybody hated, I think that very much so had the potential to be terrible, but it seems like they've really, whenever they delayed it, I think they delayed it, twice? I think
Yeah.
that gave it a lot more time to flesh out and make an actual good game, and kind of
Yeah.
correct things. And they did what Highguard didn't, and listened to feedback beforehand, um, and to kind of go from there. Um, and so they were able to craft a much better game experience now. So I
Yeah.
think that I'm happy that it came out good. I'm happy that you have a game that you can actually play and
Yeah.
enjoy, and it didn't kind of fall into that. I know that the player counts aren't massive. I'm hoping that improves as, like you said, they keep adding more and more stuff to the game. Um,
Yeah.
I never want to root for a game to fail, especially when they've listened to feedback. And but whatever happened with the art style, they settled with that guy. I think he actually joined the team in some
Yeah.
degree. So different things like that. I think this avoided that big failure, and it might not be the blockbuster game that 2.5 million people are online at the same time playing, but I think it has the real possibility to find its audience and put out a couple years of content and really make a run for it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're going to have a pretty dedicated crowd with it. I mean, it's a kind of a definitive Bungie game. Like if you played Halo, if you've played Destiny, you're gonna be right at home with the gunplay and some of the abilities, um, which I think makes it stand out. Halo 3 was one of the first big ones that really pulled me into gaming, um, and it has some similarities in gunplay feel to that. So, been having a great time. I think there's a couple things that they can improve on. One of them being the tutorial. I think the tutorial does not do a very good job explaining the systems and showing like what you can truly do and how the gameplay and gunplay will feel when you start extracting those purple legendaries, those red and gold contraband items, as they call it, the top of the top gear that you can get in the game. I think if they somehow threw that in there to give you a little taste of that in the tutorial, people's perception from the beginning may have switched a little bit. It is a very slow start, it's a very clunky start, but like I said, once you get kind of past those 2 hours and start to learn those mechanics, it really opens up and having a blast with it.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to hearing about more of that as we go on, through the episodes, and more content coming to it, and hopefully good news for it going forward.
Yeah.
And finally, we're going to end on a game that we're both playing and soon to be playing together once I
Yep.
can get my team not looking like boiled garbage. And that is MLB The Show 26. Now, we talked about it earlier on in the updates portion of the show, but, it released on Friday in early access. And both of us were dumb enough to pay $30 to get it because we cannot wait. Because it is baseball season, and both of us are massive baseball fans. Unfortunately, Pirate fans. And yeah, so we've both been playing that. So I figured this would be a nice way to kind of cap everything off. Is a game that we can both give our thoughts on, and kind of wrap up in that way. Overall, I'm having a pretty good time with it. These games are the same every year, right? If you really love them,
It's the show game.
yeah, you're gonna like it every year. There's gonna be some things that are a little better, or maybe even something that's worse. I do love, and I know that you says it's helped your batting a lot. There's a new kind of feature that lets you blur the background, kind of give a depth of field, so that when you're batting, it's a little easier to see the ball come in. That's been huge for me. So little, quality of life fixes like that they do every year. Um, I have, and I don't know if you've noticed it, they actually addressed it today. My menus have been terrible,
Yeah.
abysmal,
Yeah.
like Windows
Yeah,
95
they've
loading
been
speed.
really bad, really bad. I tried to play a couple games yesterday, and even loading in to play an offline Diamond Dynasty game took close to 10 minutes of
Yeah,
sitting at the menu waiting for the wheels to spin and it finally kick into the game. So I hope they fix those menus up and that lag up soon.
yeah, because it's impacting like everything, especially like collecting. I tried to go through
Yeah,
and collect the cards, and it was just a nightmare. Because like you would press collect, which also they have like a 4 second timer of you having to hold in the button. So then you do that, and then you wait
yeah,
for like 10 seconds for it to load, and then you can go on to the next scene. And like something that used to take 5 seconds in like the show 25 or 24 is takes like 2 minutes in this game. So it's just it's the whole thing. That's my biggest thing. And then obviously my other complaint is, well, actually I have two complaints. There's very little conquest stuff, which is my biggest thing. I don't play online. I suck at showdowns. So I play mostly conquest. That's my favorite mode, which is a single player mode where it's basically risk, but every time you capture somebody, you play like a 3 inning baseball game. Very little conquest content. I've beaten it all already. And then finally, just, the graphics are the same, man.
yeah.
Again, and they're way behind industry standard at this point. They didn't really. This game didn't release on last gen, right? This is the first game that didn't.
I'm I'm pretty sure it did. I would
Did
be
it?
surprised if it didn't.
I gotta look this up.
I'd have to double check that. But
Uh,
yeah, graphics still the same. I feel like with sports games, like the soul game is not going to change year to year. Like it's a sports game, you can't really innovate on it much. And if the graphics are the same for a few years in a row, it is what it is. But the show has been feel like going on around 10 years of the same graphics. Where I'm hoping they do a pretty big overhaul in 27, but still having a really good time with the game. Like you said, you primarily stick with single player. I dabble into multiplayer a little bit. I think compared to the last couple years, the amount of cards that you can get in the beginning of the game on launch is pretty phenomenal. There's a lot of programs to go for, a lot of World Baseball Classic content to grind for, which has been pretty fun. Getting all those cards early and having a lot to do. So, yeah, I've been having a really good time with it.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. For the record, this is only on PS5,
Okay.
Series consoles, and Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, I graphically, why couldn't we all thought this was going to be the year whenever they kind of announced that.
Yeah.
We thought this would be the year, and no. But yeah, I'm still having a real fun time with it. It's frustrating sometimes. It's RNG. No matter how good you do, the game still slaps you down. But that kind of is all sports games,
Yeah.
because otherwise they'd be way too easy once you figured them out. So, but yeah, that's been what we've been playing. I've been kind of splitting my time between MLB and Pokopia this last week, and yeah, still just playing the hell out of both games and enjoying them a lot. And we have a bunch of
Yeah.
games coming up soon. I think the
Yeah.
next episode we'll probably get into Crimson Desert a little bit, or
It's a
is that
big
what it's
one.
called? Yeah,
Yeah.
Crimson Desert. I
That
always
is a big
confuse it
one.
with Black Desert Online.
Yeah.
It's predecessor.
Lot of big expectations for that. And, as the time of recording this, it actually comes out tomorrow. So we will see what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be covering that next week. Obviously, in a couple months, we got Forza Horizon coming out. We have a Diablo expansion coming out. We got a couple other games on our radar. So we'll let you guys know every week what we've been playing, what we've been enjoying on games on weeks where there isn't a review. We can maybe talk about more about what we're doing, some fun things, moments in the games and stuff like that. But yeah, so that kind of wraps it up for today's show. Obviously, like I said in the beginning, this is going to be about twice as long as we would have a normal episode, but we've had about 2 or 3 weeks now of content, inexplicably, the gaming industry has just exploded the last 2.5 weeks. Like, I started putting together the outline with Ferg, and it was like, oh yeah, here's a couple of things we could talk about, and then every single day I'd have to text him and be like, oh my god.
Yeah.
you know
Bombshells.
yeah, so I apologize. I want to thank everyone for sticking around. If you stuck around with us this far, we just have a whole bunch of stuff to cover, and there's probably a bunch of stuff that we left out. So if there's something that happened recently that you would like to see us talk about, anything that you would like to see our takes on, something you would like to see discussed in these, let us know in the comments section if you're watching this on YouTube, and everything like that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to kicking off this podcast. Definitely let us know, through any of our channels, what you'd like to see. This will grow and evolve over time. Different sections that maybe we feel aren't as exciting, or we can't get enough content for, we might size down, and maybe we scale up other areas that we really enjoy talking about, or that
Yeah.
you guys, the viewers, enjoy. We'll try to expand outward to other platforms as well. I'm gonna, see where else we can publish to, and hopefully get more of you guys. And then as the audience builds, if we can, get together a good audience, we're gonna look to do some more fun things with you guys. Q&A stuff maybe, and different segments, guests, different things like that. So. Yeah, this has been incredibly fun. I've had a great time, and looking
Yeah.
forward to doing a bunch more of these. And Ferg, any last thoughts before we sign off?
Yeah, for the YouTube crowd, I think we should always leave it on a question of the podcast. YouTube crowd, question of podcast today. We touched on it a little bit earlier, the new Xbox, Project Helix. Are you an Xbox fan? Are you a PlayStation guy? Does it not matter for you? Are you just video games or video games? Let us know in the comments below if you're checking us out from YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, we'd love to have an open discussion with all you guys. And yeah, I'm super pumped to keep ripping these out. I feel like starting tomorrow, the moment I wake up, we're already going to have stuff to add to the script for
Yeah.
next week. So, but yeah, this has been great. Thanks so much for joining me there, Ferg. And
Absolutely.
yeah, make
We'll see
sure
you next
to
week.
yeah, see you next week. Make sure to follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on any of the podcasting channels, any of the podcasting venues there, and maybe in the future we will also get some other socials, Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that, as we see fit. A little more ways for you guys to interact with us. But yeah, as always, guys, thank you so much, and until the next time, you all have a good one.
Peace.